Hello, my name is Professor Alfonso Severos, and this is the Peripheral View. The Peripheral View is my short video series addressing various topics not only on the edge of the news, but important to us all. Now, if you're 50 years old or older, and in some cases younger, and experience periodic problems with memory, can't remember a word that you know that word, you know what I'm talking about, can't remember simple things and appointments, events, and you begin to get stressed and worried and say to yourself, oh my God, I'm developing Alzheimer's. Well, not necessarily so, because when we have those problems with memory, it could be due to a number of factors. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the more stress you have, the more difficulty you would have with not only memory, but concentrating. Stress plays havoc with certain cognitive abilities. And if you're 50 and over, as you age, you're going to have some difficulty in memory, some difficulty in remembering events, dates, names, things of that nature. That may not necessarily be the onset of Alzheimer's. I say not necessarily. In many cases, when it's persistent, yet not necessarily progressive, a person may be suffering from mild cognitive impairment. Mild cognitive impairment, which is a general term that refers to subtle and measurable memory problems, usually associated with aging. Now, mild cognitive impairment can develop into Alzheimer's or dementia, or it can continue on that level of a continuation of mild, subtle problems. So most people with aging will have that increase in forgetfulness and recall, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the person is developing Alzheimer's. Now, as I said earlier, stress plays a major role in this. So during the pandemic, and in general, stresses in people's lives that's been exemplified by the pandemic, we may see increased difficulties with memory. And that can lead to frustration, anxiety, and depression, especially if you're over 50 or in your 60s or in your 70s like me. And it's a thin line between this mild cognitive impairment and the onset of Alzheimer's. All right? Now, both mild cognitive impairment and early Alzheimer's, there's no medical treatment. The kinds of things that people need to do to slow down or to deal with the problems, the memory problems, are very, very simplistic stuff, yet have drastic effects. One is addressing the stress in your life. And you can do this through relaxation. My God, exercise. All the research and data tells us that exercise slows down the progression, how fast this disease develops, of Alzheimer's. Exercise. And you don't have to go to the gym. It could be walking. It could be any form of physical activity. So, exercise change of lifestyles, diet and nutrition, all these things addressing the anxiety and depression in one's life through relaxation, through meditation or yoga. All these things help you adapt and manage, especially during this pandemic. If you are experiencing, like many, increased levels of anxiety and depression that's related to the COVID situation, and all of a sudden it's affecting your ability to remember, concentrate, you cannot solve the pandemic. You cannot solve these outside forces, but you are in control of how you react to these forces. And that's where the exercise, meditation, and what have you help. So, addressing mild cognitive impairment, and most people as they age will develop some degree of this. I find myself at times having difficulty with memory, remembering a word or what I did or where something was. And I learned that don't panic, don't get stressed, don't get depressed, relax. Because that memory many times are right below the conscious level, below the pre-conscious level. And if you relax and let it surface, that memory will surface and you can remember in a couple of minutes something that you thought you could not remember. And if you got frustrated over it and stressed, that wouldn't have happened. So exercise, nutrition, relaxation, social activity, emotional and cognitive activities, these all are important in addressing mild cognitive impairment and new learning. Your brain is designed to learn. And remember what learning is. Learning is not necessarily schoolwork. Learning is a process of putting information into memory. And every time you do that, you develop new connections in memory. So if you have old connections that hold information that's deteriorating because of age and stress and depression and all this stuff going on in people's lives, you can sort of balance it out by attempting to learn new stuff. Doesn't matter what. New stuff in memory, creating new connections that sort of balances the equation. So, mild cognitive impairment is a general term that looks at difficulties and problems with memory, first associated with aging, that may develop into Alzheimer's, but does not necessarily have to. And so, as you get into your 50s, 60s, and 70s, and you have difficulties at times remembering things, remember, it may not necessarily be the onset of Alzheimer's, because memory does decline with aging. I hope this has been helpful and useful, especially the idea of reducing stress, controlling your anxiety and depression, and understanding that there's a relationship between these factors, memory and memory decline. Thanks for watching.